Thank you, and thanks to the whole ICOM organization for hosting this event and for having me as a moderator of this session. It's a real pleasure, particularly because the topic is so close to also my personal experience. And only before we start, I only wanted to spend a special mention to the memory of one of our leads at the Coca-Cola company, Sean Srinivasan, global analytics and data service lead at the Coca-Cola company, who suddenly passed away last Sunday. And I wanted to mention him because he was a great mentor and a great advocate of data governance at our company. And I'm sure he would have enjoyed the session, as many of you will for sure do today. So the topic is about data governance. It is not a new topic. It's a somewhat well-known practice revolving around quality of the data, security of the data, availability, and usability. Nevertheless, the topics has been evolving recently, and while traditionally this has been an activity mostly led by IT departments and technical departments, it looks like our speakers today will give a little bit of different perspective and will show us that the ownership of this activity is not exclusively of IT and technical departments, and this is all in favor of leveraging data and leveraging data for the purpose of let's say impacting the bottom line and obviously bringing new business to the companies and to any organization. The next 15 minutes, so we are going to listen more about this new trend from the direct experience of Alexander Igelsbock, CEO and co-founder of Adverity, and Emiliano Bozzi, digital data lead at Vodafone, Italy. And they're going to give us a perspective about how Vodafone Italy overcame its data challenges and the resulting benefits gained by building its now well-founded and future-proofed data governance strategy. So without further ado, let me give the word to the speakers. One more thing before they start is about questions. We have 5 minutes at the end of the session for questions. You can post them in our chat, in the Zoom chat, and in case your question won't be answered because of time limitation, we're going to have more time in the Meet the Speaker session later after the presentation. So Alex, Emiliano, over to you.
Thanks a lot, Massi. Thanks for having me and having us, Emiliano and myself. So yeah, I'm Alex. I'm co-founder and CEO of Adverity, and with me is Emiliano today. Emiliano, do you want to introduce yourself? Yeah.
Yes, as stated in the presentation, I'm the digital data lead at Vodafone Italy within the market chapter now for 2 years.
Perfect. Thanks a lot. So let's dive in. So why is data governance, what we are talking today about, so important? I mean, every successful organization has data and analytics at its core. Whereas this is so easy said, it's really hard to do it right at scale. One of the fundamental aspects that enables you to great success is, in fact, having a great data governance framework in place. So why is it important? So we can compare data governance to the conceptual idea of a public library, a complete, well-organized, up-to-date collection of books, or in this case, data and information. Think about the fundamental difference it makes having a well-organized, updated, quality-controlled data collection everybody in the organization can rely on and leverage to gain insights, versus a completely disordered, incomplete, chaotic approach where each stakeholder tries to manage its particular data perspective on their own. Unfortunately, the latter may sound all too familiar for many organizations, and are reasons why many analytical approaches fail. especially during the phase of scaling and adoption. Similar to a library, if the collection of data is not well organized, people won't bother using it anymore because it's just too painful. And exactly the same philosophy is applied to data governance. Without it, there are similar levels of chaos, risk, and especially a lot of wasted time. So let's take a look at the broader impact on businesses if you fail on this core fundamental element. First of all, you and your organization will waste a lot of time in acquiring and harmonizing data, obviously, and you will miss the opportunity to leverage this precious time for true value add. And by the time you have managed to do that and reach the analysis stage, the data is out of date, and so you may have missed the boat when it comes to using the insights to take timely actions, and the value of analysis anyway very much limited then. So additionally, a significant risk to fail in all attempts to become data-driven lies with inaccurate and, most important, incomplete data. You will draw wrong conclusions many times without even noticing. And think about how hard it is to automatically know actually if a data load is complete, because sometimes even a non-received data is meaning complete. And that is a big issue. So clearly, getting the right level of governance in place to improve data quality and integrity can provide you with a massive value add. But only if data governance is being automated, product-based automated, and not again handled by throwing masses of human resources on it, where the same error levels are introduced by having manual steps in place. So again, thanks Emiliano for joining the session today and telling us a bit about the challenges you faced and solved when working with operational business marketing data at Vodafone. So can you tell us a bit about the systems and the stakeholder that played a relevant part and the complexity that it brings with it?
Yeah, sure. Well, within the digital division in Vodafone, we are receiving more attention by the company. That's a global trend. Many companies worldwide have increased their share of investment on digital media. Then we needed to provide a framework to be able to evaluate our results and performances. To cover this, we needed to take into account multiple conversion possibilities and methods for our customers. For instance, the drive-to-store conversions, lead generation, unassisted purchases on site, on our app, etc., as well as many different products that we offer in our portfolio, B2B, B2C, broadband products, mobile products, etc.
Thank you. And when you started, what was the status in terms of dealing with the data sources, the different KPIs, and overall, how was the data quality at the time?
Well, we have many pseudo-automated reporting flows in place, sometimes also ruled by external consultants for different stakeholders with different frequency of consultancy, like weekly reports, monthly reports, etc., and different for different products. Which of those sometimes might have been from different backend systems. Plus, we had the additional challenge to be able to link the online world to the offline world. Meaning, for instance, we generate a lead online. How do we know if that lead became a sale after, I don't know, 1 week from the generation? So there were a mosaic of different solutions, but not an organic and holistic one.
Very, very interesting. Thanks. So before we come to basically how you overcame and what the benefits ultimately have been, I want to take a look at the data governance framework as such. Data governance needs to be, so what we see and what we hear from many sides, at the end of the day, it needs to be appreciated by the teams, and they need to be well aware of the business value. I mean, the business value in terms of saving time and so on. So data governance is what, at the end of the day, all about people, processes, and technologies. And those build the foundation for the 6 key areas where the results are at the end of the day. So firstly, what we see is it's the quality, ensuring data is of the right quality to be used effectively. Second, making it available, the data easy to consume. There is data democratization playing a vital role as well. So meaning data needs to be shared and leveraged in the organization to become really data-driven. And third, ensuring that the data is business ready out of the box, can immediately used without additional data wrangling seamlessly in whatever tools of choice. It's a core foundation, a core fundamental piece. And then obviously it's super important in terms of an overall framework, the compliance and security aspects. It's a key element. Putting systems in place to make sure your data is and stays compliant with internal and external criteria. Think about sensitive personal information, GDPR, CCPA, and so on. And it needs to ensure that data is secure and classified according to this category of sensitivity. And the fifth element, I think, is very, very important. Having this framework in place, it defines the single source of truth, and the single source of truth ensuring the consistency and establish the trust at the end of the day in the system. Think about the library. If it's incomplete, nobody cares at the end of the day. And that is applicable then along naming conventions in the data, KPI framework, common language, and so on. But out of my perspective, single source of truth is not only about the completeness, it's also about the accuracy and the recency. And finally, the data governance framework assigns specific ownership to each set of data. It defines the roles, making sure only qualified people have access to certain data, but also making clear who is responsible at the end of the day for a specific data set. So meaning whom to ask also, and who needs to take care of it. With that in mind, I want to hand over to Emiliano, who will tell us more about how Vodafone benefited at the end of the day from having such a data governance framework in place.
Yeah, thanks, Alex. So the the first family of benefits is about data integrity. What does that mean? It means, of course, main benefit was data reliability. So we now know exactly what are we looking at, what are the sources of those data, and we put in place robust and automated procedures that we maintain within our team, and so we have the complete governance of the input and the output. We have more qualitative data, meaning higher granularity and more recent data and more frequent updates, again automated. And as a plus, we also benefit as a whole team in terms of accountability and reliability when it comes to making decisions, argumenting those decisions, and supporting those with insights that we can measure consistently in time, and that allows us to demonstrate the quality of our choices. The second family of benefits is about data security. We were able to internalize most of the processes, basically all of the processes, so we don't need to ask for additional developments by third parties or by our IT systems. Sometimes that's needed also, but we maintain everything within our team. And we can slice and precisely show data to the right stakeholders, depending on the KPI and the frequency they are interested to. And we have a control over the input and output and how we manage the merging and the cleaning of the different sources. Last, of course, we also measure the performances, which are basically of three types. Of course, we have increased efficiency within the team because we spend much less time in manual reporting. We have happy stakeholders. Each of the levels that are interested in observing our results and understanding how things are going get their own report designed by themselves for their purpose, but based on the same single source of truth that we created. Third, of course, we have greater accuracy, faster decisions, and this, of course, resulted in great business results after 1 year from the adoption of the framework we built.
Very interesting.
Super. May I ask, just to wrap up, guys, unfortunately, time is short, is over.
Yeah, thanks a lot for stepping in. It was right in time, and it's great to see this
perfect
tangible, great business value coming out from a very, how should I say, sometimes sounding too theoretical data governance framework.
No, it's
Super.
not.
So in the question, I do not see yet any questions, but I have in my mind a question that I would like to pose to Emiliano. When it comes to digital transformation, I guess the question that many of us have listening to you is where I should start. Many people may be just intimidated by the fact there are so technical aspects to consider and may just think about handing over everything to IT. So what is your recommendation, your experience, if you could share a little bit about that?
Yeah, thanks for the question. That's interesting. Actually, I believe you need to start from two pillars in a way. You need to have a clear path in mind of what you want to measure, what are your business questions, what needs do you need answers to. Second, after that, you need to insource some I would say hybrid profiles within the marketing team. That's super useful because these kind of figures, they can talk to IT, they can talk to the data science team, but they can also talk the marketing languages. So that's really important to be able to, not creating obstacles in this road to constructing this kind of framework and capabilities within the company.
Super. That's really fascinating and interesting, because actually this means that more and more business people needs to take ownership of the, let's say, data governance compared to the past, where, as I said at the beginning, it has been always seemed like a quite reactive let's say, activity to make sure that we minimize the risk of mismanagement of the data. I have a another quick question for Alex. Alex, what are, let's say, the ways that we can measure success of implementing, let's say, the data governance, a new way of data governance, as you suggest here?
I mean, there are a few obviously harder and softer KPIs and how you can measure success, but think about it. At the one hand, I think everybody wants to get data driven, and basically an adoption of utilizing data for decision finding, that is also a KPI you can see when the marketing teams, when the business operations teams, they rely a lot on data driven insights. That is the success factor at the end of the day. Obviously, sure, there are more tangible KPIs like how many hours are saved in wrangling data, acquiring data, and putting data to use. Sure, that can be also measured, but ultimately you want to accelerate, you want to get ahead as an organization. And that is by having this data and analytics competencies in your core. And you need to put it to the business operative people. And this technology nowadays allows it to do so. And this adoption of becoming data driven is a clear indicator for success.
Okay, I have heard that many advocate for specific OKRs. So it seems that you are, however, less orthodox in that respect, because we are always in the business under pressure to show the value of what we do, right? In terms of sure. Executing the data strategy. These are quite expensive activities. So what would you say to someone who would, however, advocate for a more, let's say, stringent measurement of those benefits?
It is even so even with OKRs, you can put OKRs in place that reflect this adoption of data. But at the end of the day, it starts, or at the beginning, it starts at automating processes that are historically very manual in acquiring data, harmonizing the data and putting the data to use. And with that, this is really, that can be easily managed and measured in terms of how it has been done before and how it has been done after implementing that governance framework, because that clearly shows you what manual steps have been eliminated, and that really is translating in hours and money. And then on top of the insights, basically, the value, the data-driven insights, you also can specifically measure the impact of those decisions. And yes, you can have a clear business value calculated out of that as well.
Thank you very much, Alex and Emiliano. Fascinating topic.